Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike. And before you get too sucked into this awesome interview, do us both a favor and like, subscribe, and share this amazing piece of entertainment, because I am here with the one, the only, RAENAmaker!
Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure is all ours. So, how things? Everything going amazing?
Everything is going great. Everything is great. I have very little to complain about.
All right. Well, if that's the case, then you won't complain about sharing your favorite dad joke with us now, will ya?
No, I won't. Okay, favorite dad joke. Two peanuts are walking in the park. One of them is assaulted.
Hey.
It's really bad. It's a legitimate dad joke though. Like, it's one of my dad's probably favorite jokes.
For whatever reason, I want the other one to be honey roasted, but I think that's just because I have a sweet tooth.
Oh, honey roasted peanuts are the best.
Do you have a favorite underutilized word for us?
Oh, favorite underutilized word. I'm going to have to go with... Oh, man, that's such a very good question. Underutilized. Come back to me on that one, actually.
Okay. Will do. Do you have a favorite movie that you'll never skip when channel surfing?
Oh, man. Pretty much any of the original 3 Star Wars. Probably specifically Empire Strikes Back. Oh man, or Shaun of the Dead, which is such a fantastic movie.
Shaun of the Dead. You're hitting me right in the feels.
I know. I don't think I could ever pass that movie. That movie is so brilliant. Just so many good quotes.
Totally.
It's a good one. What about you?
For me, I think mine is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh,
it's another
that's a
Edgar
good
Wright
one.
movie, but it's great, yeah.
Yeah, those guys are brilliant.
So, what is your favorite underutilized word?
My favorite underutilized word has got to be discombobulated.
Doing some head severing, are we?
It's in my spare time. Yes, that's actually what I'm most passionate about, head severing. I feel like there's a lot of people who might say, running around like a chicken with my head cut off, or I'm just spacing it today. But really, I feel like discombobulated is it's such a perfect, succinct way to say I don't really have my shit together today, and I'm a hot mess. It just encompasses so many things, and it's so fun to say.
It really is.
Discombobulated.
What would you say is your biggest everyday temptation?
Oh God, candy! I fucking love candy so much.
Do you have a go-to brand or a specific bar or pebble that you like snacking on?
So a lot of people these days I feel like are chocolate people.
Mm-hmm.
And
not that they're made of chocolate, but that they
right.
chocolate.
Right. Not like you'd go like take a chomp out of them, but like their preference. They're chocolate people. And I gotta tell you, I'm like fruity sour person. I love there's sour strawberry belts. I don't know if you've ever had these. They make a huge mess, but they're so good. Or like sour straws. Sour Patch Kids are good. I do love hot tamales. And then like if I do get in the mood for something chocolatey, I go for Reese's. I mean, who doesn't love Reese's?
Right? Reese's are freaking great.
I feel like Reese's are like, if you don't know what kind of candy to get someone and you get them a Reese's and they didn't like turn it away, they might be someone you don't need in your life.
Totally.
I feel very strongly about this. In fact, I would die on that hill. I would die on that hill.
I'll die right there with you.
Perfect.
All right. So, growing up, did you have a favorite book? that you like to read, reread, or would want to like share with friends?
Oh, you know what book I loved, and I kind of feel a little bit silly saying it. I loved A Little Princess. I can't remember.
A Little Princess?
Yeah, I don't know why. I actually think that it had this sounds strange. I think it had something to do with the smell of the pages, because it wasn't like any of the other books I had. Like, the pages were kind of glossy, and for whatever reason, but I truthfully I loved the story, though. Just the idea that this little girl had everything, and then she had everything taken away from her, and then there's just this huge redemption at the end where she was able to be loved again, and she got rescued. And I genuinely, I love that story.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I do. I haven't even thought about that book in a really long time. That was a really good question.
I'm glad I could remind you of that. All right, so I'm going to ask you a tough one. If you had to evacuate your house, let's say there's a fire, a flood, crazy neighbor with a gun, what's the first non-living thing that you would grab and whisk to safety?
Oh, first non-living?
Yeah.
Oh, we're
going to assume that the aminals and their children's and,
okay,
significant others in the building can figure out their own way to escape. What's the first? This is usually a natural disaster, so do away with the idea of home invasion. But like, let's say there's a fire, flood, some Gaia is on her way to mess your home up. What is the first thing that you make sure comes with you into safety?
Okay, well, there's probably one thing I would grab. It's a box with like important like documents and papers in it, but that's really boring. So I'm gonna think of the next thing I would probably grab. My brother loaned me a very expensive guitar to play when I started playing guitar like a year and a half ago. Yeah, it's a really, really, really nice guitar, and I would probably grab that because I feel like I would feel really bad if I told my brother that this guitar got burned up in a fire. So yeah, it would be a musical instrument.
That's so pure. I love it. All right, do me a favor. Clear your mind. Now, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I say underrated?
A good fitting bra. I just went with it. It's so hard to come by and so just completely underrated when you finally ladies, hear me. We all know bra shopping is a fucking bummer. And then when you finally get that bra and it fits just right and you're like, oh my God, I did it. And you don't have to dig around and stuff or nothing hurts. Am I right? It's just so underrated, a good fitting bra.
I didn't know that was a thing. That's so crazy. Is there not a good cohesive size across the board? A 7 isn't a 7?
No, everyone's got different boobies. Well, everyone's got a different rib cage. Everyone has a different build.
So there's not a set size, because I know I'm showing my complete male ignorance. I know there's some amount of sizing, letter and number,
yes,
which has the size and the kind of how long the strap is, right? From circumference wise.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. And those two things, they, depending on what it's a whole mathematical process. There are general sizes, but not everyone fits in that general size. Have you ever, I don't know if you struggle with this, but Walmart, for instance, their flip-flops, they don't have half sizes. So if you're, because me, it kind of depends on the shoe, but if you're a half and you have to get either the next one up and you're swimming in it, or the next one down and it's too small. So it's kind of I feel some women for their bra sizes are a half size shoe with no representation. And so I just feel when you get that bra and it feels you hit the money on the head, or it could be the brand. And the same thing with pants. I have different pants that are a range of probably 4 different sizes depending on the brand of pants.
Mm-hmm.
And
so the problem, it sounds like the problem is the brand, not
could...
necessarily. It's not that, like, it sounds like each brand is like not like where they're the same size ish. They're not the same actual size. Is that fair to say? Am I getting kind of close to this one?
Yes, that is the case.
I have the exact same problem. Obviously, a different kind of problem, as it's not, you know, strapped to my chest and causing pain. But I have the same problem with New Era hats.
Oh,
so
okay.
New Era, especially with one of my favorite companies, Tokidoki, made a bunch of hats for like a very long time that were fitted. And I prefer fitted hats because I don't like that feeling that the kind of classic trucker or Little League hat where they had like the little strap on the back where you could, in quotes, size it. That
Yes.
feel where there's like a little bit of it open and like, not for me.
Yeah.
Fitted is the way to go. I think it's superior. You can all hate me however you want. However, with New Era, especially Tokidoki in particular, the sizing is bananas. I have 3 that are 7 5/8. One of them is gonna would give me melanoma of the brain, if that's even a thing. The other one fits just perfectly, and the other one I can put on my head, flick it, and it'll spin around because there's so much room, even though they're all technically the same size on paper. Somehow through either material or whatever, they all fit differently. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
If not on such a mine's a little bit more of a superficial level as opposed to like a necessity.
Well, but it's still a level of comfort. So you do know, you know exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, it's still a level of comfort. It's just when it's...
I'm only fitting one round thing in it and you're having to fit 2.
Well said. Very well said.
Exactly.
That's very clever.
Very shape oriented, this podcast.
Yes.
So what would you say is your favorite industry secret, or a term that's only used in your line of work? Whichever, if you want to focus on work or your passion, whichever kind of area you find having a kind of a fun terminology that you'd like to share with us.
Oh man, so I don't know if this counts. To me, in my mind it counts because I've kind of coined it as a way to explain things. So someone told me this joke. It's music related. Someone told me this joke, and I was like, God damn, that's the best joke I've ever heard. So the joke is, what do you call more than 2 guitars on stage?
I don't know. What do you call more than 2 guitars on stage?
Guitarmageddon. Because it's just incredibly... I know Foo Fighters has 3 guitarists, and they do it well. They make it work. Mm-hmm. However, more than 2 guitars, and everyone just steps on each other's dicks, and it just is it's just madness. And so when I heard that joke, I was like, that's brilliant. And so I've kind of my inner circle of musician friends, I have enlightened them to this joke. And now when we're places and we see, more than 2 guitars on stage, which really I feel like most commonly happens at open mic nights, we kind of just look at each other and we're like, Guitarmageddon. Oh my God, Guitarmageddon. How was the other night? And I was like, oh, it was Guitarmageddon. And they're like, oh God, I'm sorry. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So, that one's extremely niche within a small group of people, but it's still one of my favorites.
That's great. All right. Is there a piece of advice you've been told over the years that has made the biggest impact on you, or that you find yourself even pondering to this day?
Oh gosh, yeah. Advice from people who have lived longer than me is so valuable. I really, honestly, just being grateful, staying grateful for what you have, even when you're working towards something and it seems like you can never get there, or it seems like door after door after door gets shut in your face, or it seems like the world just kicks you no matter what you do. Just focusing on what you have rather than what you don't have will make, I feel like that's the difference between being someone who's happy or being someone who's miserable. Because I can sit here all day long and tell you all the things that I don't have that I wish I had, or tell you all the things about my physical appearance that I wish I could change, or I don't. I mean, the list is endless for all of us.
Yeah.
But
no, it's like that Life of Brian thing. You just always look on the bright side of life.
Yeah, always look on the sunny side. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's so true. Even in a comedic aspect, it's true. Yeah, so I try really hard to stay grateful, and it's so funny. Like on days where I struggle and I get stuck in like third world problems or first world problems. Excuse me.
Slightly different.
That is a very different thing.
Between those two.
That is a very different thing. I feel like a lot of our struggles, especially in America, and in my own life, are just first world problems. And like not only will they not matter in 5 years, they won't matter in 3 months. So it's like, why am I going to let someone else's bad attitude ruin my day? Or why am I going to let the fact that, my car broke and I have to try to get a ride to work ruin my day? Like, I have working appendages. I'm healthy. I have so many people who love and care about me. And so I really try really, really hard to stay focused on all the things that I have that so many other people don't have, and be grateful for those things. Gratefulness.
That's awesome.
Gratefulness, people.
I'm sure it comes super easy and you can do it every day too.
Oh yeah. I never am ungrateful. Ever. Yeah. What about you? Tell me, what about you?
There's this piece of advice that's somewhat similar to the one you just talked about, which I heard on the Harmontown podcast, where they had it's really weird. There's this comedian, Pete Holmes, who I think... Oh,
I love him.
He's I don't find him as funny as I find other comedians, but I find him so much smarter and kind of pure, which is different. It's like somebody made this video about back when he had this he had a talk show where like a late night show on like TBS or something like that, and there's this difference between him and Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon like says he can't stop laughing, and maybe that's true, but there's something that seems mildly insincere about it.
I agree.
Pete Holmes might be the most sincere talk show host to like ever exist. It's so wild the way, like, going back and watching old clips and just the way he was just so, I don't know, it was so earnestly joyful, and there was no pretense, it was just so honest. And like on the podcast where he was talking to Dan Harmon, the creator of such amazing shows as Community, Rick and Morty, he said this quote, I think he said it's from like a People, but it's like, I'm attributing to him because that's where I heard it. And it's, hate is a lack of imagination. And I was thinking about that just as you were, saying about how it's just like, yeah, most of the time this doesn't matter. It's going to go away. Most of these problems we face in the United States are very much first world problems of just like more getting over ourselves, getting annoyed than dealing with something that's actually an issue.
Oh,
and just that idea that, this isn't, it's our choice to be angry and hate something. And it's so, it's such a knee-jerk response, and it requires no empathy. It's just like, screw that person, they messed me over. It's like, yeah, but like maybe they had a reason. Maybe you were being a jerk that day. Maybe they didn't even think about it and it wasn't intentional. So like, why, take this much umbrage with it? And he went on at length in the podcast because it's a podcast, just like we are going at length now. But I found it so amazing to like really like take a step back. And occasionally I'm able to do this in real life, once every other year, and just like have something happen to me and just have the presence of mind to kind of go, hold on a second, and not get angry. Usually the times I'm able to do it is when I'm running early to work as opposed to late, and somebody cuts me off, or, there's a traffic jam, and instead of being pissed off at, something that was outside my control, I can just be like, okay, it doesn't matter, and kind of sit and look at the problem that it is and be like, oh, look at this thing that's happening, and just not see it as a problem and not get angry.
Right.
And not like let that hate kind of, bubble up inside.
Yes. Try not to use the hate inside you. Opposite advice from Darth Vader to Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. Do not let it flow through you. Do not pass go. Do not go directly to jail.
Do not
enjoy
collect $200.
Yeah. No, you're not hating. See, that's the $200 you get, is you didn't have to hate. It's great.
Oh yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Speaking of great ways to put things, given the opportunity, what is your favorite personal anecdote to tell?
Oh, my favorite personal anecdote. Okay. So I find this to be an interesting story, and it kind of goes to, like, not to get too terribly deep, but I fully believe that, like, something in the universe was looking after me on this day. So when I was probably 5 or 6, we lived on a ranch in Melodious, California. And there were animals there. There was a lot of really cool stuff. It was kind of this tucked away rural little gem in the midst of a huge city. I mean, right down the road from us, down the hill from us, there were like $1 million houses, and people who worked at Silicon Valley like lived in those houses.
Yeah.
And so my brother, my closest sibling is considerably older than me. So my closest sibling's like my brother Wes is like 6.5 years older than me. And so my dad built him kind of within this huge shrubbery. On our property, there was a big tree in the middle of all these bushes. And so my dad helped my brother build this tree house, this like fort area in this tree. Aww. Yeah, it was super cool. And there were like little tunnels that we could get to the fort through all of the shrubbery and bushes around it. And so we were playing one day, and we were all, I can't remember why, but we were running into the fort, and I was ahead of everyone. And so I don't know I was running full speed, little teeny tiny Raina running as fast as she could go. And I don't know what came over me, but something made me stop dead in my tracks. And I don't know why it did, but when I stopped, I was face to face with the biggest spider in a web that I had ever seen. And had I not stopped running, I would have ran straight into the web. The spider would have been on my face. I was eye to eye level with this spider. And yeah, and I remember, so I flipped the fuck out, of course, started screaming and crying. But there was a moment before panic set in that even being small, I appreciated the fact that I had stopped running and I didn't understand why. And I mean, undoubtedly this thing, I don't know if it was like a venomous spider or if it was dangerous. I was little, so I mean, that's always I know it wasn't a black widow, but it was so massive. And I just was like, oh, wow. I'm so glad I stopped. Why did I stop? And then I started freaking out. I started crying, and I was yelling and screaming. Everyone was like, what's going on? And I was like, there's a spider, and I almost ran into it. And they were like, so what's the big deal? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, no one really understood, probably because I was upset. But it was just so remarkable that I stopped. And, like, even to this day, I think about that. And I'm like, why did I stop? I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Why did I stop? So I fully believe that someone out there in the universe was looking out for me and was just like, stop, child, and I stopped.
I'm not saying this to diminish, but rather to accentuate the awesomeness that is the universe. But the idea that we have more than 5 senses is very much true.
Yes.
I've found in like reading papers and listening to like TED Talks and stuff like that, that just people in general usually have, there is like almost like a spidey sense for most people of like this feels weird, like, and they can't put a finger on it. And like that idea of, it's especially prominent in women because generally speaking of the way our society interacts, where it's like guys don't get punished when weird shit happens, women get exuberantly punished when weird shit happens, you know, like just whatever circumstance you're thinking of, especially when like women of, you know, late teenage years on deal with, you know, let's say walking to a car at night or by themselves. There is that idea of, you know, this kind of sixth sense idea of like, you know if you're being watched, that appears for everybody, but especially like this idea that women's intuition has gotten poo-pooed. Somebody wrote a paper and was talking about, no, that's very much a thing. People have it, and women, especially in our society, have to have it like just genetically based upon years and years of survival. It's like the ones that survive and are most likely to procreate are the ones that didn't have bad things to happen to them, which means that they likely had really good kind of intuition. And not that it's, something that can't be learned, but it's something that is learned and kind of quasi passed down.
Right.
And so it's one of those kind of wild things. Like you said, I've had that happen multiple times where it's like, you just like, something doesn't feel right. There's like places I haven't moved into. Everything was going according to plan. People seem nice. The, rent was cheap, and there was just something weird. And it was like, nah. And, something was wrong with that place. That, there were, the people were like, all like the roommates were really weird. I hadn't met them, and it like, felt weird, step away kind of thing. There's plenty of times that people just like, something doesn't feel right. Now I'm not talking about like predicting the future, like didn't board the plane. It was one of the ones on 9/11 kind of shit.
Right.
That is just, wholesale miraculous. You can't predict the future, but of interacting with people, because especially with persons. Yeah. There is a thing that they blindfolded people, and they're like, all right, do you think somebody's looking at you? Do you think they're not? And more people than not are able to know when somebody's looking at them, even if they can't see it. It's just like a feeling you have, or just based upon experiences with other things. Like, with the spider, you might not have realized you saw it. It's just like, it's so amazing. The human body continues to amaze the more we learn about it. It's just like, it's so insane, like how impressive our bodies work. And it's like, so cool that we have situations like that, or we get to pun intended, get to feel like Spider-Man, and just kind of freeze. It's like something's wrong, get those like animation lines drawing off the top of our head where we're just like, what's going on? Something bad.
Yeah, the little squiggly lines.
Yeah, I mean, like our 1,000,000-year-old selves that we initially got the genetic trait passed down from was, running through the forest, and then you smelled a tiger, but you didn't realize it, or you heard something that sounded like and you didn't know it, but like the back of your, lizard brain, whatever, was just like, shit, something's not right. Get in the tree, run away, make a lot of noise. And like, that's, we've been passed down after, millions of years or whatever. It's freaking awesome, right?
It is awesome. I think
we're all superheroes.
I know, but I think a lot of us ignore that a lot. I do wish that we as people, like how many times do you have a weird feeling about something and you put it off, or you push it aside and you don't pay any attention to it? Like, I've done that several times, and like, but I pay really close attention to that stuff now. It's like, especially when it comes to people, like what you were saying about, you're going to move in somewhere and everyone seemed nice, but something just fell off. Like, I really wish, I really wish people listened to those instincts, because they're defense mechanisms built in, like just like you said, years upon years that I feel like we kind of, maybe we just get bogged down, and I mean, we all battle with our self-doubt, but I do wish that people kind of listen to those things a little more.
I think the hardest thing is it's not tangible, right? And like, it's going to be wrong some of the time, just because that's the way life works.
And it's got to tie in with fear sometimes. Mm-hmm. So you have to learn how to differentiate, like, what is this fear, or is this my gut instincts, and is something, or is this just me being nervous about something? That is, for me, that's always the tough one to tell.
Yeah, I think the reason it's so kind of poo-pooed is because as we try to move a society towards predominantly like tangible reasoning to make decisions, it's so hard to explain why when you yourself don't know, but something in your body and your brain is being like, yo, dog. And especially considering, like I was saying, it's more pronounced. They found it to be more pronounced in women, and it's sadly a male-driven society currently that we live in. A lot of like people get treated like, a lot of women that have this feeling and they speak up about it, they get gaslit. And they're just like, look, you're going crazy. Like, there's nothing wrong here. If, sometimes they're trying to, somebody's, doing something, and the other person they're in the conversation with, like, doesn't see the problem. And so, like, they want to, kind of either do this thing, or they think it's completely irrational. And that does kind of enter that gray zone of like, how do you, like, if you and I are getting an elevator and you're suddenly like, holy crap, something's wrong. It's like, I'm running late to a meeting. I don't see any problems. I don't feel any things you do. It's like, it is really hard as another person, like another one of the species, to be like, okay, I'll listen to you, even though it makes no sense for like everything our society has taught us about, just interacting as a species. It's so wild.
Yeah, it is. It really is. We are we're just peculiar little pickles, aren't we? We're just full of all of our just complete obliviousness to the subconscious that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite little known fact?
So my favorite little known fact, I heard this recently. I think it kind of came up. So my best friend was pregnant, and I think it came up in conversation just about baby stuff. But as a female in your mother's womb, oh gosh, now I'm going to say this wrong. So you were, when your grandmother was carrying your mother, you were an egg in your mother's uterus. So essentially when your grandmother was also pregnant with you, which I think is just so cool because every female is born with all the eggs they're going to have in their lifetime. So essentially
I wonder if that's the idea, or the idea where like Russian dolls came from.
Oh,
so like,
yeah,
look,
it's
a kid within a kid within a kid. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good point. I had those as a child. I actually really like playing with those.
No, they're adorable.
They are adorable. I think I still have one somewhere. I think that is just the freaking coolest thing.
It's like that when somebody was doing this online the other day, every year, every month, they took a picture of themselves holding a picture that they had taken of themselves and like going on further. And so it's like a picture within a picture within a picture.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that idea of just like, infinite, transcendence eventually. It's just the idea of just like, if you get pregnant, you're like, I'm pregnant with my grandchild probably. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's like baby inception. It's a baby.
Babyception.
Baby within a baby.
It's a baby within a baby.
Oh man,
that's awesome. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, I guess like you come kind of like, I guess pre-half preggers, like.
Oh yeah,
you have like half the stuff.
Yeah, maybe not pre-half pregnant, but maybe like just pre-half there. I don't know. Yeah, but it really is cool to think about. Like, it took me a while to wrap. Well, not a long time, but it took me a while to wrap my head around it. I was like, wow, that's so freaking cool. And I was like, God, our bodies are so remarkable. There we go back to. We circled back around to how remarkable we are as human beings. Yeah. Remarkable. And then sometimes just so fucking stupid.
Oh, yeah. We're the most powerful and fragile beings on the earth. Like, one of the cool facts that my brother, showed me was that, like, I think it's for how much we eat. Like, I think the energy we consume, we, like, make it go the farthest. Like, calorie to, like, energy output, we are, like, the most fuel efficient animals on the planet Earth. Because like lions, when they eat, they're eating so much of an animal. Like, it's not super constant, but they're eating so much of that animal when they eat. And compared to us, we're just like, I had a sandwich and a salad. Okay, what are you gonna have for lunch? No, that was my whole entire day. I had a sandwich and a salad, a thing of water. I'm good. You're like, wait, what? Like, I don't know. Like, if we ate with like lions and elephants, they'd be like, what, like, are you sick or something? No, I'm feeling great. They're like, are you sure? Like, you haven't hardly touched your half wildebeest. It's like, no, I had a couple ribs. That was plenty. They're like, seriously?
Are you not going to take the tail? Can I take the tail?
Yeah.
Bro, are you not going to eat that? Yeah, but you know what? I bet you lions, if they were as aware as we are, and they would look at us like wasting food, they'd be like, bro, are you going to just waste that? Like, I would say that lions and tigers are not wasteful Wendy's when it comes to their meals. No. They're like, I don't know what I'm going to eat. They're not wasteful. I got to eat this whole thing.
Well, they're also, their body is having to do so much lifting too. Yeah. So I don't know how that kind of functions, but because they're having to chase down an animal that is trying, literally, it's running for its life, and they have to they have to go get it. It's insane.
Okay, so I was thinking about this. This came up at work because my boss was talking about, he was talking about he had chickens that he was raising. And since we're on the subject of animals eating animals, he was talking about these chickens he was raising and how one of his dogs had killed the chickens, and how he was super upset because these chickens had been like, they were really like, they were hand fed and they were really, really personable. And he was talking about how mad he got at his dogs. And granted, dogs don't need to eat chickens to survive, but I told him, I was like, you know what's really funny? Because I've had animals who have died from other animals eating them. And it's interesting to me that, like, when you're watching, like, nature programs, whatever animal you start out with is the animal you root for. Like, when you're, do you know what I mean? Like, when you're watching a program and it starts out, the gazelle, beautiful, unique, and you know, like, and the guy's painting a picture of this gazelle, and you're like, oh, look at how cute this gazelle is. And then you see it give birth to this baby gazelle, and you're like, oh, man. And then along comes this fucking lion and rips it to pieces. And the whole time you're like, get away, little gazelle, get away, little gazelle.
Yeah, you're just like, you freaking lion jerk.
Yeah, you're like, you son of a bitch, I hate lions. And then the next episode is the lion. Beautiful, majestic, and you're like, come on, lion, get the gazelle, you have to eat. But it really just, like, your allegiance is to whatever you are emotionally invested in, but all things have to eat. But for whatever reason, talking about animals eating animals reminded me of that, and I still find that so interesting, that no matter it's who you start out with, that you are definitely
well, I mean,
more loyal
like,
to.
think of, totally. Think of it this way, like, when I've noticed this too in different, I hadn't thought of it like when they through programs, which is funny, but like when interacting with people, the first person, like, let's say you're new to a school, the first person you make friends with, if then you interact with somebody else and this person's like, yo, by the way, like, the guy that just made friends with you, like, he likes sticking gum in people's hair, like, not somebody great to be associated with. You're like, whatever. He's my friend. You're a liar. It's like, you don't know this person but 3 more seconds than this other person, but you're going to side with them.
Right.
Like, that, the knee-jerk reaction is to, like, trust the known. It's like, okay, well, I know this person for a little bit longer than you, so, like, you know, they're safer than you. It's like that whole entire like genetic predisposition of, you know, like that gut instinct. It's just like, well, this is safe. It hasn't killed me yet. It hasn't stuck gum in my hair. Ergo, you must be full of shit.
Yeah, you, I'm not so sure. Maybe you're the one sticking gum in people's hair.
Perhaps it's you, Steve.
Yeah. That's my husband's name.
I rest my case.
I knew there was something wrong with him. I knew he was too good to be true.
All these years, every woman coming up and be like, he sticks gum in hair. Like, no way, he hasn't done it to me yet.
I know. When you said that, I was like, how the fuck does he know?
It's that second sense.
Yep.
All right, fill in the blank for me. This weekend was so great. I spent 13 hours.
Playing video games.
Real? All right. What we playing this weekend?
Oh, I love video games. I wish I was playing video games this weekend. Oh my god. So my husband and I both love video games. Okay. If I'm going to play by myself, I love Zelda. I love Zelda. All kinds of Zeldas. Really, the only Zelda I don't like, which I catch a lot of shit for, is A Link to the Past. I think it's weak. I'm just gonna say it. I come at me, bro. I will
standing on this hill, ready to deal out justice.
Dude, I would die on this hill too. A Link to the Past is weak. Like the original Zelda, Zelda 2: Link's Awakening. I'm all about it. I have played those games zillions of times. Ocarina is my heart and soul. Majora's Mask was great. Twilight Princess was decent. And man, the latest one is so good. Are you a Zelda fan at all?
I have never been, just partially because of the way I was brought up, I was never a console gamer.
Oh, PC
Sadly,
gamer.
I was not allowed to have awesome things in my life. I love them very much, but I just, like, I've always kind of stuck to PC, partially because, like, the way I was raised, and also just, like, you know, you can do other things with it, and it's efficient, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But, no, I love the look of those games, and the little bit I've played, I've enjoyed, but I've never kind of gotten in and, like, gone back and, like, you know, taken a week off and just played the crap out of them.
I gotcha. You know what's interesting to me? being a console gamer and having several very good friends of mine who are PC gamers is how we're, to people who are non-gamers, we are all the same, right? I mean, I think we could agree there, right? So to people who don't play video games, whether you're a PC gamer or a console gamer, you're still quote unquote wasting your time on that nonsense bullshit, right? But then you get on the inner more circle of like, so let's say 50% of the world is non-gamers. We need to shove them away, and now we have 50% of the world we're gamers, and we're all in the same room, right, hanging out with each other. And then but it's gonna split off. It's gonna split off. PC gamers gonna go one direction. Xbox is gonna go another direction. Nintendo's gonna go do whatever the fuck those weirdos do. And then PlayStation...
Dreamcast is sitting in the corner just being like, we're the best!
Dreamcast is crying itself to sleep. No one gives a fuck about Dreamcast. Not if you're over the age of 11. And so... And then... and then PlayStation people are gonna be over in another corner, right? And then, like, the PlayStation and the Xbox dudes are like, yeah, Call of Duty, crush some pussy. And then everyone else is like, the PC gamer is going to be like, I'll see you guys in like a week. I'm going to go in some dungeons. It's just so funny to me. Like everyone is they're so
everything is high school. Nothing is not high school. Just like, doesn't matter. Like the nerds were all in like one clique and then they just started splintering off and now they're in different cliques. It's like, at no point have we broken the cycle. We're always like,
there's always
this is us, we're cool, fuck all the haters, fuck all the people on the outside of the circle. It's only the people on the inside of the circle. I mean, like, society is high school, right? Cliques are just, different nationalities, different, like, social groups. That, like, everything is high school forever and always. As much as it doesn't train you for the world, it kind of does train you for the world. Know your people, find them, band arms, and fight the fight the outsiders with a stick.
Yeah, you find your people and you stay there. And then I feel like I do truly feel like once you get out of school age, I have to say school age because I was homeschooled. So once you get out of school age, I feel like a lot of that stuff goes by the wayside. I feel like the labels kind of go away, but the clique, I do feel like you are right about the cliques. The cliques remain, but I feel like the labels start to slowly fade away.
I think we don't use the labels just because we want to pretend like we've moved on.
You think we want to pretend
100%,
you
could like put a very de facto label. Yeah, you could just put a label on. Like all of them are just like it's not cheerleaders anymore. It's
it's not
real estate brokers.
It's not jocks and the preps versus punks and skaters. It's like I don't even know what it is now.
Different, we have gamer groups now, and inside the gamers, we have this and that, and like it splinters off. But there is so much, clickiness to like everything. It's so funny. Just like people don't want to believe it is, but it's there.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it's there.
It is.
All right, so that was if you're by yourself, you're going to play Zelda. What about if you and your husband are both off? 13 hours to yourselves. What game we play?
Yeah, so we don't really have a game that we're super stoked on right now. So I will tell you the games that we have. I will tell you the games we have put an embarrassing amount of hours into, and I'm not even joking when I say
it's only embarrassing to the losers on the outside of the clique.
Yeah, fuck you if you're
in Gamerland.
Fuck you if you don't like it.
You're good.
So we put a lot of hours in Grand Theft Auto 5 playing online together. We put a lot of hours in Red Dead 2. We have put a lot of hours in Battlefield. Battlefield 1, Battlefield 4. Battlefield 5 was such a disappointment. We didn't put a lot of hours in that one. That was a big letdown. Any of the Star Wars Battlefront games, even though I really struggle with EA and the way they handle their marketing and the way they sell their products, I think we all know that EA might be the devil. But
we're all aware of this. We just don't want to say.
Yeah, but I mean, if the devil has Star Wars, the devil has Star Wars, and you fucking played it. So
yeah, like all right, Satan's got Star Wars. What to do?
So we played quite a bit of Battlefront, the Star Wars editions, of course.
Of course.
Dead Space, any of I think it was the second or third Dead Space was co-op. We played that one a lot and we have PlayStation. We both have PlayStations. We do though also have Xboxes, Xbox 360, and we used to get down on some Left 4 Dead with friends of ours. We had two systems and we'd link them up so we played 4 people at a time. We played with our kids. We play with we made my dad and his mom play one time, which is hilarious because they're in their they're like in their 70s now, but they were in their 60s at the time. And I gotta tell you, our parents did pretty damn good. I was really proud of them. Yeah,
was there any practicing of triage where they're like, well, they're dead, and they just like left you?
No, they didn't.
I was really hoping for that. I love seeing that when people switch, like people that you wouldn't assume have what it takes to like be cutthroat gamers.
Yeah.
Like, you know, playing with parents, playing with, you know, uncles, playing with, you know, people that are kind of, you think are outside the sphere, and they're like, they're not going to get it. And watching them just like make a cutthroat decision. They're like, leave them, they're screwed. And you're just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're not wrong, but seriously?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. You know, I don't think we really have we don't have anyone like that in our tight family. We might have like you said, we might have like some uncles that might do some bullshit like that, but like not our parents. Our parents,
not the people that you're gonna take when the zombies truly come to town. This was all a practice test.
Yeah,
we know we can't trust you later, Uncle Ted.
Yeah, they passed the test. They made it. Our parents made it. Like, they can come with us. Yeah. It is possible that our kids might have let us die a couple times though, and they like laughed the whole time because they thought it was. I mean, it's possible that happened. But even our kids, I don't know. We'll probably save them come apocalypse time, I'm sure. So yeah, one more game that we did that it's a cross-platform game. We played Don't Starve together.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was funny because like we didn't. My husband got so mad at that game because it was really, it's not very informative, and we started way later on.
No.
When like they had all the expansions, and there was a bunch of stuff that like was not explained to us. And so I literally, I spent so much time on the internet Googling how to play that fucking game. But then once we got the hang of it, we got hooked on it. So yeah, we got hooked on that one too. I think that's for the most part kind of what we play. Oh, and Resident Evil. Any co-op Resident Evil, although the last couple ones have been the last couple of co-op Resident Evils were not very good, but it's like sentimental, those games. Those games, to me, they were revolutionary.
For a lot of people our age, it's roughly childhood, basically.
Exactly. And they were so terrifying. Like, Nemesis was so scary. Oh yeah. God, I could barely play those when I was a kid. I'd get anxiety so bad. Great games though. But yeah, that's what video games look like around here.
That's so cool. All right. So the next question I got on the list for you. Can you think of the first or most impactful memory of when you realized you weren't so alone in your struggle, or when you realized you were more like everyone else than you previously realized? If you need an example, I have one to give.
Give it to me.
All right. So I've said this on multiple times now. I had problems reading, especially reading in front of class. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out why. And I was just like, what is wrong with me? I can't like get up. Like when I start reading in front of a class, like when I was in college, you know, in my 30s, nobody in here is like, oh no, I need to like make this person like me. I don't really care. I could feel my throat like kind of closing a little bit and like sweating, and I would sit back down, and it would take a minute before my heart rate would stop and I would stop having a headache. And I talked to my brother about this, like, what the hell is wrong with me? That's so weird. He's like, no, it's not. It's like you have stage fright. You're like having a bit of a panic attack in response to stage fright. This is really normal. I was like, is it? And I remember looking online, and there was an interview with Bo Burnham, who's a fantastic comedian. I love him to death. And he was talking about how even after like he'd done his TV show, he was going around and doing like, I think it was his first or second comedy tour. He was having trouble with panic attacks in regards to, public speaking effectively. And it was like he had to cancel a show. He would like occasionally like pass out. Yeah. And that was his career. That's what he had done for so long. And like he had so much practice, and he would still have problems with it. And that's, it's a very normal thing. The number one fear of people, at least in the United States, is public speaking. Most people would rather ostensibly face death than public speaking, or so they think.
Yes,
I think,
yes.
But I think gun to the head, they're like, oh, actually, give me that microphone.
100%. I think that people it's more likely like, people have faced public speaking rather than a death situation. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
No, totally. But that for me is one of those things I realized, no, this is completely normal.
Yeah.
I am completely normal. This isn't something to be sad about. This is something to kind of, it sucks. And if I want to overcome it, I can, but it's a challenge and it's not something I should judge myself or, think of myself lesser because of, running into.
Yeah. That is a great example. It's interesting. I feel like every single kid thinks no one could possibly understand what I'm going through or what this is like. We all think that we're superbly weird.
Totally.
And I wish that at younger ages we understood that, I guess it's sort of it's sort of a double-edged sword. Like, you want to believe that you're unique and that you're different and you're special.
Yeah.
And we are all unique and special in our own ways, but we all share a lot of things in common. It's hard for me to think of a time when it kind of cemented in me, but I think I used to be really, I had some weird, I lived through some weird shit. Like, I had really bad food allergies when I was a kid, and I could barely eat anything that other people could eat. And that kind of made me feel like an outcast. And then I was homeschooled my entire life, so that kind of made me feel like an outcast. I do know that I had met other homeschooled kids, and that was kind of when I was like, oh, it was really intriguing to me to meet other kids who were homeschooled and to see how, what their school was like. But I think around the time that I realized, probably in my late teens, early 20s, that I wasn't the only person who had a really fucked up family, that I was like, I think that was what it was, that I was like, it's really not that uncommon for people to have at least a parent that really might not be the best. Like, I got really, 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 really lucky with probably the best dad I could have ever asked for. But the other end of it was a real bummer. And so I think the more I talked to people and the more I could say things like, I had a really tough time growing up with my mother. And they'd be like, oh my God, me too. I'd be like,
yeah, samesies.
I'd be like,
yeah, exactly.
Really? It was foreign to me because it wasn't safe for me to say those things when I was living with that person. So for the first 18 years of your life, you kind of have to just keep this part of you hidden. And you're like embarrassed and, several things. And then when you can finally talk about it freely, you're like, oh my God, I'm not alone. Like, I'm not the only person who struggled with that. So I think, to me, probably in my late teens, early 20s, when I realized that I was not the only one who had a shit bag for at least one parent, was when I was like, we're really not all so different, are we?
Or just, like, not only that, like, I'm very fortunate, and looking back, there are moments when I was a kid that I thought similar things, but, like, growing out of it, I think a lot of it is also even, like, one of the hardest things to, like, look back, especially if you had bad things happen. And I'm saying this very much from a seat of being fortunate and having, like, two parents that I love and I'm very much in a great relationship with to this day, is that, like, sometimes even the worst mistakes can come from a place of love. If sometimes, like, an altered one is, like, the really weird acceptance piece of that for me was, like, growing up and it was like, what the hell? Why did they do this? It's like, oh, it's because they were doing what they thought was best to look out for me. Sometimes that's, they have a screw loose and they, like, made a big mistake, like perhaps in your case, but other times it's just like, they grew up differently than we did. And so, like, we're looking at their decisions through as if we made them, not through their whole entire life. It's that kind of, like, being angry, being hateful is a lack of imagination. It's like, you didn't take the time to, like, rewind their life, look at the way they lived and be like, oh yeah, this is why they thought that. Like, for the longest time, sorry, Mom and Dad, but you're going to get shit on a little bit here. For the longest time, my parents were vehemently against, like, Dungeons and Dragons and anything of the kind of fun, fictional, like, sci-fi thing. Even for a minute, I think they were kind of on the, is Harry Potter okay? train. They quickly got over that, and my dad loves Harry Potter more than the rest of the family combined, probably. But very much was kind of like, you know, they'd had one bad experience and based all their decisions off of it. And it's like understandable, like, you know, how can you look past an experience that you had personally with people? Like, they had people that they shared, they like kind of like let rent a room, and they were like, they never paid rent on time. They both lost their jobs because they were playing so much D&D. It's like, how can they look at that experience and not worry for their children, like when that's something that they're kind of getting interested in, like when they've seen it be like so destructive. Of course they wouldn't want their kid to do that. They were very wrong. D&D is probably one of the best things for a kid to like play with his friends. It like increases like the way their brain functions, and like the idea of forming empathy and living like a different life. It helps your kid learn. So yeah, you can do so much with that. And like they've actually started doing, I think, PTSD work in like prisons and stuff like that. There's a lot of like amazing stuff that people have been able to do with role playing, like Dungeons and Dragons and otherwise. It's freaking amazing. But, you know, like I understand when I finally took a step back and heard that story and like thought about it, it's like, yeah, that makes sense why they would do that. And it is so wild that, you know, and it's like one of those things that, you know, when you talk with other kids and other people, it's like, yeah, everybody's parent, like the only parents that, how do I say this grammatically correctly? All parents messed up. The only ones that the kid doesn't realize it is because they messed up like so bad that they can't understand, or they hid it so well that they haven't found out about it yet. Like everybody's parent made a mistake. There's no way they didn't. It's impossible to know.
Well, because you're raised by imperfect people. So, and I tell people this, like, no one gets out of their childhood unscathed. And I actually had a conversation with my dad not very long ago, because he was with me, you know, all the time, and he saw that the other half of, you know, his parenting team wasn't really the strongest. But it's also a thing. It's like, you know, he's told me a lot of stuff about his childhood, and recently, very recently, some things that I've never heard him say before. And I was like, wow, I had no idea he went through that, because you're raised by imperfect people. And, you know, like my husband, I have 3 stepdaughters, and they're all grown. They're all grown and moved out of the house. And I mean, my husband and I started dating when I was like 21. I was so young, and I had so much to learn about myself. And then stepping into a role where I was a parental figure was huge. And thank God my husband's amazing. Thank God those girls are amazing. But I mean, there's, you know, we didn't do everything perfect either. And even though you know that your parents didn't do everything perfect, and you try your hardest, you're still imperfect yourself. It just doesn't, no one is a perfect parent, but you said it spot on. It's like, you know, you can look back and see that the things they did were out of love. For me, my childhood was a teeny tiny bit different. It wasn't necessarily like the wrong things. It was like the constant abuse that never ended. Constant verbal abuse that never ceased. And then if I were to have a relationship with that person, it would still be happening today. So for me, I had to take a step back from one side of my parental beings to protect myself and my husband and my children. So, but I am, for the most part, I'm with you. You have to look back at your parents with grace. And I even like, I can look back at her side, and I know that she had a real shit childhood too. And so I can definitely see things that were the reason she did those things the way she did them, for the most part. But then at the end of the day, you have to, like, well, I mean, be that as it may, I still have to protect myself. But it was definitely, it was a revelation when I was talking with and meeting other people who had similar experiences than me, and I was like, my God, I'm not alone. So,
It's kind of wild looking at decisions people made and realize that obviously there are, you know, there are exceptions to the rule. Yes. But by and large, most people do things out of love for somebody. Yeah. Sometimes it's not you, and sometimes you are, like, you know.
So sometimes they do it out of love for themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And like very rarely in like so much of what we're shown in, like, I think the way a lot of people without having, other than the experiences you have in your life, a lot of the times the only way you're shown other people is through film and television.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times bad guys are made out to be cartoonish. And the reality of life is that very infrequently do people want to be the bad guy. Most of the time, everybody is a hero of their own story, right?
Yes.
And so, you know, people who had really bad childhoods, I'm not trying to say that this person is a hero and you should look up to them. That's not what I'm fucking saying. Right. I'm saying that what in their head, a lot of people, even the people that are doing maliciously evil, bad shit, they are the hero of their own story, and they are trying to do what they think is good, which is where it gets really funky.
Right.
And doesn't mean that you shouldn't leave somebody who thinks they're doing good, because it matters what they're doing to you. Course. You know, like in your situation, they were trying to do good, most likely for themselves, but maybe also you.
Right.
But it doesn't matter, because the byproduct was that they were doing fucked up shit in your direction. You're like, how about no? Yeah. And just, you know, what was best for you was skedaddling out of there. And so like, that's the kind of like awkward circumstances that, you know, that it kind of gets like really muddy. But it's always interesting to remember that's just like, nobody thinks they're doing like very rarely, I wouldn't say always, but a lot of the times people think they're doing the right thing. And just, you know, either their glasses, you know, they haven't cleaned them in a while, metaphorically speaking, or, you know, just like they're not looking at how they're affecting other people. And it's been me at too many points in my life.
Oh yeah.
So moving on before we have any more revelations.
We've gotten too deep.
Too deep. We need to
come up for air.
We need to tunnel away out air. All right. Is there a moment that you look back on in your life that fills your chest with pride or brings a tear of joy to your eye?
Oh man. Yeah, there are definitely a couple. I think the revelation that I had found, it sounds so terribly cheesy. I'm so sorry, listeners.
No.
The realization that I had found the man of my almost perfect dreams. I probably the luckiest day of my life was the day that I fell in love with my husband. I found the raddest dude in Fallon, Nevada. And I mean, I found the best man for me. I feel like I had kind of like a big long list of things that I was looking for in a mate. And it's interesting because sometimes you can only get a couple things. Like you either get a man who can fix shit and get dirty, or you get a man, who's kind of artsy. You don't usually get both. And I say most likely, I know there are men who are all of those things. But I got so lucky. So super lucky. My husband is musical and he likes video games and he appreciates art. He can be around, he can shoot a gun and he can fix a car and he can put time into his appearance and look nice to go somewhere and feel confident about it. And he likes so much of the same music that I do. And he's confident in who he is, and he's not jealous, and he's not egotistical. Like, how did I get all those things in one?
Are you trying to sell him to me? Do you want me to steal your man? I'm confused. I feel like we're at an auction yard and I'm supposed to raise a paddle and say $1 million.
I can't help it. We've been together.
No. It's so pure.
Oh man, he's just.
I love seeing that. It's something that it's so cool. Like this is the kind of funny thing, right? Because when there's girlfriends that I've had, and there's friends that have had girlfriends or boyfriends, and talking to them on, month 1, month 2, and they say that about their, now significant other, and they gush, it's like, okay, calm down. But when you talk to somebody who's been in a relationship for 10 plus years and still feels that way, it's such a beautiful and pure love, like kind of like that's what makes a great relationship, is when like that's still, they look over and that, like I know a couple, they're, they've got like plus 20 years on me and hang out via like some common shared interest, video games or, Magic or something like that. and she's walking away from the group, and to like, I don't remember if we ordered pizza or whatever, but she's walking away from the group, and he just kind of looks over as she walks away, and like, he didn't realize that we caught him, and looks back. He wasn't like, showing off like, look at my girl or anything genuine. Weird or creepy. He just kind of looked off and admired his significant other as she walked away, and just kind of enjoyed her visage. And like, we just looked back, we just kind of looked at him, we're like, you want to take a picture next time? He's just like, oh, shut up. And just goes back into what we're doing. Later on, we're all playing, and he leaves to go to the bathroom, and she does the exact same thing. And it was so adorable in the cheesiest, like, horniest way possible. Just like, walked her, man, just look at that booty, and just like watched him walk away. It's just like, that's so pure. They've been together for like 20 years. It's like, it's so sweet.
No, that's great.
And just like, it's not that it's like always, I think that's like one of the things, talking to people that have been in relationships for a long time. It's like, it's not that that's always there. You don't not have fights. You don't not get annoyed at the person for doing something, like, work. Yeah. But like, when you find those moments and when you're talking about them, it's just like, it's so great. It's like, you love to see it. You love to hear it. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you for thinking it's beautiful. It's super cheesy, but it's so fucking true. I hit the lottery. I swear to God, I broke the mold or something. I got so lucky. So lucky.
Well, it's only cheesy because it's cliche, right? It's like we hate pop tunes that hit number 1 of the charts, even though we like them initially, because it's like, even been oversaid. It's like, this is such a great song you're talking about. It's just, the good ones have it, and so it sounds cheesy, but in reality it's only because the people that have it are so happy to have it that like the rest of us kind of find it dumb or annoying. We're just saying out of jealousy that we haven't found that song, we haven't found that man.
Well, I mean, I hope and pray that everyone can find the same kind of love that I have with my husband. I'm so lucky.
Aww.
I'm so lucky.
Well, moving on from that cheese. Lastly, before we throw it to our commercial break, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song you're choosing, which would it be?
Oh, it's so hard to pick only one song. Okay, so I'm a huge Queens of the Stone Age fan.
Quatsa for life.
Yeah. I highly recommend that you listen to Fortress by Queens of the Stone Age. It's a fantastic song. I love the lyrics. I love the melody. I love that dude's voice. Fantastic.
Oh, he's such a...
It's velvet.
Josh Homme is such a crooner.
Oh gosh, it's like liquid chalk. It's just so velvety and rich and smooth and sweet. It's a great voice. Oh yeah. Great voice.
He's got such a great sound. Highly recommend as well. Can't get enough of
Josh. It's a fantastic song. I'm gonna throw one more out there though. I'm gonna throw one more out. I know. I'm gonna throw another one out there. And really specifically because I'm going to see this band in concert next weekend. There's a band called Gangs of Youths, and their song is called "What Can I Do If the Fire Goes Out?" And it's also a superb song. Highly recommend listening to those 2 songs.
All right, with that, I'll allow it just this once.
You.
Don't tell anybody you got away with it. And with that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy this totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy Fortress by Queens of the Stone Age. Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast, Song Rex. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a jiffy. Do you ever find yourself sitting around with an emptiness inside your soul or larger than preferred vacuous space? Would you like to change that? I thought so. Now introducing Stuff. For when you have nothing to do but important things. Stuff. For when you're lacking personality and intrigue. Stuff. When the world has taken a pickaxe-sized chunk out of your heart. Stuff. And if Stuff no longer fulfills these needs, please don't hesitate to look into our life-enhancing product, Addiction. Welcome back, everybody. So, Raina, what is your passion that you brought with you today?
Oh, my passion. Hey, I actually want to take a quick second before I answer that question.
Okay. Quick second allotted.
Thank you. I think it's so fucking cool that you're doing this.
Oh,
I think it's dope. I think you have a great voice for this, and I imagine that that's got to be a lot of it, but you're also super witty and funny, and I think that this is fantastic, and I am so stoked that you're doing this. I'm like, it's not that I am proud of you, and I know that probably doesn't count for much, but I think it's really cool that you're doing this. I think it's badass.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
It counts for a lot.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to let you know that, because I've been thinking about that, and I'm like, man, this is so cool, like he's doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think this is really well suited to who you are as a person. I think this is great for you.
Ow. Well, don't think you got away with not answering the question.
No.
Because
I want to answer the question. I just didn't want. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. That was great.
Okay. So, man, we're really getting into the meat and potatoes, aren't we?
Now I'm hungry. We're going to have to answer quickly because now I want to eat food.
I eat food even when I'm not hungry. Food is so good.
Food is the best.
Not my passion, though. So, I know it's a blanket statement, but music is my passion. I started playing music when I was 8, and...
What was your first instrument?
So my first instrument was drums. My brother actually wanted to play guitar, and we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up. So my mom was kind of trying to find lessons that we could afford, and she ended up going to a place where it was group lessons, and they mostly had drums and keyboard, but you could also, like, my brother had a guitar and an amp, and I was like, yeah, he can bring it, and there's one of the other dads brings his bass, and he can totally help him out. And so my mom looked at me and was like, do you want to do it too? And I was like, sure. And that was it, man. I was like, I just took straight to drums. Drums just kind of like the very basics of it felt easy to me. And we had a superb teacher in that class, which I'm sure helped tremendously. But music has just given me so much. Music has given me a community, especially like growing up being a homeschool kid. Music has given me a community, an extra family. I got to know my husband because of music. If I didn't play music, and if he didn't play music, I don't think we would have spent time together and got to know each other. We wouldn't have met, that's for sure. And so, I mean, music has given me so much, and just so much joy, so much comfort in times when I was hurting. I mean, music can be so many things for people, and it has been, I would venture to say, everything for me.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So you first started playing drums when you were 8.
Yeah.
What other instruments have you picked up since then?
So I started playing drums at 8. I started singing around, I think, 10 or 11. It was actually at Kennel Festival in Fallon. I wanted to sing a karaoke. It was like, I don't know if you know this or not, or if you remember, but Kennel Festival used to have a karaoke night, because I think it was only like on Sunday night. And I desperately wanted to sing karaoke, even though I was terrified. And I sang Don't Speak by No Doubt. And my mother realized that I actually could sing. I was in key, I was on time with the rhythm, and so I actually started singing at church shortly after that. I was drumming and singing at church, and then my dad was also singing on the worship team, and my brother was playing guitar on the worship team. So we were kind of like a little bit of a musical family, at church anyways.
Were you trying to be like Phil Collins or Karen Carpenter? Was that the goal? Get exposed, couldn't help yourself?
I heard that a lot. Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you're just like you're just like Phil Collins, and you're just like Karen Carpenter." And I was like, "I guess so. Who's Karen Carpenter?" Like, I knew who Phil Collins was, but I was like, "Oh yeah, the Bird Suddenly Appear song." I was like, "It's not a great song, but she was super talented."
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people said that to me. yeah, so I started singing around 10 or 11, and then I pretty much just, like, randomly sang and played drums. Like, my parents would take me wherever there was music going on, kind of be like, hey, can my daughter sing and play drums, or can she sing a song, you know? Like, they kind of did the best they could in a small town.
Totally.
And then...
to those listeners that haven't picked up on it yet, we kind of... You were born and raised in Fallon, right?
I was born in California.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You're Melodious. Yeah, that's right.
Well, we didn't move to Fallon until I was 8.
Exact same, by the way.
Oh.
Moved to Fallon. I believe I had my 8th birthday in Fallon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What brought you guys to Fallon?
My dad needed a job and had just quit his back on the East Coast, and we grew up in the West Coast in California and Northern. I actually was born in El Cerrito, so we were actually very mirrored in that way. Milpitas is just across the Richmond Bridge.
Well, I was born in San Jose.
Okay.
But then we moved to, I grew up, but I did spend a lot of time in Melodious. That's so crazy.
That's wild.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but so we kind of grew up, 8 to 18, and you're still in Fallon, right?
I'm still in Fallon, yeah. I attempted to leave once, and it was right after I had started dating my husband, and I didn't want to leave, and because I had kind of gotten like this job offer to go drum for a show in Vegas, and that ended up not working out, and I very happily came back. Which has never been it's never been a decision I have ever regretted, but yeah.
That's so cool.
That's so cool. So I had no idea that you were also a Californian transplant.
Yeah. Huh? Grew up in the Bay Area, moved to Nevada when I was 8. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. So, rewinding time a little bit, you first start playing when you're 8. You start singing when you're about 10 or so. What do you remember? Like the first were there any kind of stand out songs that like you remember first hearing? Like, are there some of what are some of your first favorite hits growing up?
Oh, okay. Well. So when I was a kid, my parents listened to nothing but country. And I knew nothing. So, like, when I hear a Garth Brooks song, I almost undoubtedly know all the words to it. Or, like, Clint Black or Brooks and Dunn, Dwight Yoakam. So a lot of that is, like, like, Trisha Yearwood. Like, I'm huge... Like, I love 90s country. I low-key love it. I know that it's cool to hate on country music, but, like, anything past, like, probably 1999, as far as country goes, I completely don't really like it. So it's like, the 90s country
it's not what you grew up on. It ain't right.
Yeah, it ain't country if it ain't what I listened to as a little girl. So, well, like, as far as hits go, like, I remember... I remember when I got my first pink little radio, and I could listen to my own music. And I would listen to the alternative station, and I loved alternative music when I was about 8 and 9, when I started to kind of branching out and listening to my own music. So it was like Nirvana, the Toadies.
The Toadies,
yeah. Still love that album with
Possum Song?
Possum Kingdom.
Or Possum Kingdom, yeah.
Yeah, that is a great album, by the way. Tyler, in fact, is a fantastic track from that album. I loved No Doubt. I worshipped the ground that Gwen Stefani walked on as a child.
I mean, I still do.
I still do, too. I still love her. I really, I still love her. I will always love her. And so, anything alternative, I just loved it. I still have a huge alternative playlist on Spotify. And then as I got a little bit older, I got a little more into classic rock. So, I mean, as far as like hits go, though, I mean, Smells Like Teen Spirit was huge on the radio. Possum Kingdom, I love that song.
So when is this that you got this pink radio and you got into listening to alternative on the DL, it sounds like?
So I was probably around 7 and 8.
Okay.
When I was listening to the local station, it was KOME was the alternative rock station in San Jose. And I just freaking loved it. And then Any Radiohead song, like High and Dry. Oh my god, I mean, Radiohead, top 5 favorite band of all time.
So is this something that you had to keep secret from your parents, or is this
No.
something that like you could express and like they were like, oh, that's cool that you like this, even though we like country and think it's the best?
They didn't really care.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, they weren't like, and they actually didn't even really mind if the songs had bad words in them. They did care about like content. So like if it was something dirty, they didn't like us listening to stuff that was dirty.
Okay.
But they didn't really mind if there were bad, like if there were swear songs in
Foul-mouthed language.
Yeah, which is actually pretty cool because you and I both grew up fairly in religious families.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was kind of, I don't know, I have the weirdest sort of, my parents just kind of like, I feel like they did the Jack Mormon thing, even though we weren't Mormon.
Yeah.
We weren't Mormon, but they did this thing where they would kind of like pick and choose what was okay and what was not.
Yeah.
So like R-rated movies or anything that had any kind of sexual content was completely not okay.
Yeah.
And then any like a lot like stuff with like wizards and witchcraft was also not okay. But then stuff that just had a lot of really bad swear words was totally fine.
Yeah.
And they didn't even really care if I would swear as a kid, which is kind of crazy, as long as I wasn't like swearing in church. Like I had to know my crowd. Like if it was just with them, they didn't care if I dropped F-bombs, even as a little kid. But they cared if I went trick-or-treating. It's like the weirdest thing. Like,
oh, yeah.
You know? Like, just so crazy to me that they just kind of pick and chose. They're like, oh, maybe Coke isn't okay, but it's okay if I have coffee sometimes. You know how, like, you know? Like, I'm just
That's
like,
so funny.
I don't know how they rationalized that shit, but they did.
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of like, I mean, the American public system is also kind of like that, right? Because, like, you can have... If you show, like, you can have a crap ton of swearing, but there's certain swear words that put it over the edge.
Yeah.
You can have ludicrous amounts of violence, but if there's, like, one quasi-explicit sex scene, you know, that's, like, an R,
right.
Where you can have people being chopped in half left, right, and center. It's like, oh, that's PG-13 or R. It's like, wait, but one of these things you would say is probably beneficial to society, like... People having sex is like kind of what makes more people kind of just a normal human experience. Most people get quite fulfilled by it, where violence is something basically you wouldn't want most people in your society doing, but you're showing them explicit amounts of it. It's like, I don't understand.
That's actually a really good point, and I have never thought about it like that. That's
so
an
funny.
Excellent point. Yeah. I don't know where we get our little quirks and yeah.
It's wild.
It is wild.
So what, as somebody, you've been playing music since you were 8, this is something that you've done and gotten paid for, right? This is some, like, at times has been a profession. Like, you went to Vegas for a job. We're going to do it. Luckily for the relationship with your husband didn't work out.
Yes.
Or what would be future husband didn't work out. So as somebody who at times has been a professional musician, what would you say are some big misconceptions about, you know, kind of that world by the general public?
Oh, yeah. Let me lay them down for you.
Ooh, hit me.
So we gig a lot. So my husband and I are in a band together. We have made it.
What's the name?
Yeah. So we are Steve and Raina. It's super.
Ooh, so mysterious. It could be anybody on that dais.
It's so aloof. Yeah, Steve and Raina. You can look us up on Spotify. We did a CD. We've done a CD. We've actually done 2 CDs. So we did a band with bassist where I only played drums, and then our bassist moved away. He was in the military. And then we kind of took a break to raise the kids and focus on family stuff. And then we kept getting calls for gigs. And we were finally like, you want to jump back into this? Because it's so much, and to answer your question, it's so much more work than people realize it is. So right now, we are currently in we're in the beginning stages of starting a music hiking YouTube channel. We have a couple of prototypes up, And so we're really trying to get going on that, but it takes a lot. As you know, like you have to edit, you have to make sure your audio is good. There are several things that you have to do, and the videos take quite a long time to edit. And then you also, the idea is that we go to a place, record a song, and basically take people on the journey with us.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, it's been something we've been talking about for quite some time, and we're finally like doing it. We're accumulating gear.
Do you guys have the channel up and running?
We have a channel. We have like 67 subscribers. We have 2 prototype videos. We don't have anything.
What's the name of the channel?
It's just Steve and Raina. And so my name is spelled RAENA. We are currently in the process of coming up for a name for the channel. But we're not quite there yet. We're still just learning the gear, making sure we're shooting quality footage. And also we both work full-time jobs. So trying to find the time to go and shoot the video has also been challenging. So in the midst of all of this, we've been getting offered gig after gig after gig because it's like getting warmer. People are having parties. People want to barbecue. They want to hire a band. Functions are happening, like we're coming out of this COVID fog where people are living their lives again. And so one of the things that people don't realize when you play music, and it's a broad misconception, is how much time it takes to prepare for a gig somewhere. So, like my husband and I, when we play a gig, whether it's a party and we're playing the Cantaloupe Festival again this year. So whether we play the Cantaloupe Festival or we play a party or we play a gig at a restaurant or a bar, we start practicing probably every night or close to every night for a week to 2 weeks before the gig.
Wow.
We practice a lot just so we keep our chops up. Your vocal cords are like muscles. If you don't stretch them and use them and, you don't do that muscle memory with them, you will definitely notice a difference in your voice and your vocal performance. If you come out of not singing for a month and try to go do a gig, you're going to be hurting and it's not going to sound as good as if you've been practicing. So a lot of preparation and practice goes into a gig. And then the day of the gig, we have to pack all of our stuff up. And this is another thing that people don't see and they don't know. We have to pack up our PA, our gear, get it all ready. That takes probably like an hour. Load it in the car, take it to the gig. It takes an hour and a half to set up and sound check. Then we play for 2 to 3 hours. Then we pack everything up. Takes about an hour to pack it all up. And then we bring it home and have to unpack it. So it's like this huge process. And people are like, oh, just come and play a few songs. And you're like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand what this entails. Like, it entails a lot. And then, and then you also have to find time to make a set list for what you want to play at this party. Who are the people who are going to be there?
And also not only what songs you want to play, but like what order, right? Because there's, depending upon what songs you have, there can be like flow patterns of like this song goes like dovetails into this one pretty nicely, or ooh, this is going to be like too rough a transition from something. Like you don't want to like misorder like a ballad and a hard rock piece. Otherwise it's going to, just like kind of jut against each other, right?
Right. You're exactly right. There's a flow. And not only that, you have to read the energy of the crowd with each moment. And DJs do this as well. But you, as a performing musician, regardless of what you're playing, you read the crowd. Like, when we make a set list, we used to put the set list in order and play song by song. And we very quickly stopped doing that because, like, you have to just feel the energy and read the room. And, like, sometimes we'll put songs on there that we end up not even playing. And we'll pull, like, if it's, like, mostly old people, we'll pull, like, because Steve does, he does an Ice Cube cover. He does It Was a Good Day, and it's fantastic, by the way. I hope you get to hear it one day.
Sweet.
He does that, and he does a Beastie Boys song. He does Paul Revere, which is also fantastic. I mean, like, if it's mostly 60 and 65-year-olds at a party, we're not going to play those songs. Yeah,
it turns out you're not going to bust out Ice Cube.
It turns out he's not going to be talking about that. So, it's just so much preparation. And people just, I mean, and I don't fault them at all. They just don't know.
Yeah, they just don't know all that goes into making the sausage, you know. They don't expect it to take so long. And like, again, it's one of those things like we were talking about earlier, right? It's the best of intentions. They just want to see you play. Yeah. They want you to have fun. They want you to be able to do your thing. They just don't realize all that, you know, all that their request encompasses.
Exactly. And to them, it's like, oh, no big deal. We just want you to come play a couple songs.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, you have no idea how much work and energy goes into a quote-unquote couple of songs.
Yeah, they don't. What they're trying to do is lower the expectation so that you feel comfortable, no expectation. But it's like, yeah, but I'm putting the expectation on myself, and by the circumstances that you are providing, you are making what I'm going to do impossible or like painful. But again, like, there's nobody at fault. There's nobody being the bad guy here. It's just people not being in the dark. Yeah, it's just they have no fucking clue. And then another thing that's super funny is you get to a gig and like they're like, we want you to play over here. It's like, that's fantastic. There's no power over there. Or do you ever get that? Oh, just do it acoustic.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay,
it's like,
what are you gonna do, 2 feet from me?
If I do it acoustic, like singing acoustic with a party of 50 people, I'll go hoarse because I strain so much. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
Sorry, bud.
Yeah, sorry about that. Or they'll like put you directly in the sun, and you're like, oh, cool. I can't wait to get a sunburn today. It's just, it's super funny.
That's awesome.
It's super funny. There's a lot of things that go completely unknown and completely missed when you're playing a gig somewhere.
All right. You ready to move on from the beautiful to the bewildering?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. That sounds so enchanting.
What is your preposterous peeve that you have brought with you today?
Oh, my preposterous peeve. Oh, it's such a preposterous one. So it drives me batshit insane when parents are talking to their children and they refer to them as brother or sister rather than calling them by their names or even their name and nickname. It's like when a parent's looking for another kid and they ask their sibling, they're like, oh, where's sister? Oh, sister. Oh, where's brother at? Oh, go give brother a hug. And I mean, like, I get it. You have more than one child. but those two children do have names. And I'm sure that neither of them on those birth certificates are brother or sister or sissy specifically. It's like, your child is worth more than what they are to their sibling. Let them have their name. You gave them a name. You named them something. You thought about that name and agonized over that name and pondered that name for the 9 months that baby was in your stomach. And you won't even call them their name. You just call them sissy or sister or brother. I don't know why, but it drives me fucking crazy.
It's like, it feels like what that reminds me of is when somebody's doing like a very like mediocrely rehearsed like puppet show or like, you know, kind of stage play. They're like, oh, time to get sister. It's like, because like they remember like the part in the stage play, but like they didn't give that character a name yet, or like the actresses switched. It's just like, her name's Stephanie. Like, just, you know, like,
just
maybe learn
Stephanie.
Your lines, Ted.
Even shorten it. Shorten it to Steph.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. And that's a funny, super funny way to look at it. I almost wonder if it's like, and I'm sure they do it when no one's around, but have you ever noticed when, like, a parent's talking to their kid at the store and it's almost like they want people to listen to how they're talking to their kid. You're laughing, so I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
about. I feel
like
this somewhat goes hand in hand with that. Like, where's Sissy? It's like, I'm not here for the show. Like, I don't care what you're saying to your kid. I don't even know you. You know, like, I don't care if your kid wants a banana. Like, just give him a banana. Don't be like, do you want a banana? Yeah. Do you want a banana? Like, it's because you know people are watching, and you're hoping they're thinking, "Oh, it's so cute. Look at how that mom's talking to her."
Yeah, it's a performance of a sort. Yeah, it's just like, dude, just interact with your kids. Stop treating them like, the public gives a crap.
Yeah.
We're all just buying onions.
Yeah.
Give your kid a strawberry. I could give a shit.
I'm just getting a fucking avocado. Like, I didn't, you don't need to put your kid on display. Like, they're not on sale for 99 cents. Like, I
now that's a cheap kid.
Well, when they're all named Sissy, can you tell the difference?
So when did you notice this was a problem for you? Was this did this happen to you when you were a kid because you had siblings?
Maybe.
Or is this when did this first crop up in your life?
So I'm just now realizing maybe it bothers me so much because it wasn't something that was like, our parents didn't talk to us like that.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's why it bothers me so much.
It feels so foreign.
Yeah, because I think I noticed that it was bothering me probably in my late teens, which I feel like is kind of when you start to get like irritated by a lot of stuff. Like, have you ever seen that South Park episode? And I can't remember if it's I can't remember which. I know which one
you're talking about.
But
it's when he tries to listen to music, like tween music or something like that, and it sounds like literal shit.
Yeah, and then it's like someone, and then like eventually I think it's Stan, and Kyle's talking to him, and then Kyle starts to sound like shit,
Yeah, he starts to sound like a fart.
Yes,
yeah, that's great.
Yes. I think it's around whatever age that happens to you, and that was around the time I think I noticed it, and I was like, this is fucking annoying. Like, this is so annoying. Why do people do this? Like, did you name your kid Sissy? No, her name's Charlotte. I was like, okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm guessing probably my angsty late teens when everything was starting to sound like shit anyways. Yeah.
Well, it's just like, it's kind of like when somebody, this kind of reminds me in a different way, but a similar, like, at least sounding sphere of when you're like, you meet somebody new or come across somebody that you don't really know, and they're super just like, everything's beautiful to them. They're like, wow, isn't this a great day we're having? It's like
Susie Sunshine.
You just like look at them, one eyebrow raised. You're like, are you trying to sell me something? Or are you just stupid? Like, the world sucks, man. Like, stop pretending like everything's great. Like, no, this is an amazing Sunday. It's like, you shut the fuck up. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? No. Like, today is like okay at best. Stop pretending like everything's great. Like it's like the same people that use the term like hunky dory it's like sarcastically or like ironically. It's just like, is everything going okay up there? Are you a serial killer? Like right. It's so hard for me to trust the like ridiculously optimistic. It's just like, I mean, you can be like, man, this is, everything's all right. Like the term all right is like kind of, it's like, yeah, this is pretty good. This is quite nice. It's like the people that use the quantifier on how decent something is. I'm like, yeah, I trust you. You see that like crap is going on, but you're choosing to ignore it, push past it. But the people that are just like eyes full wide, just, like, what an amazing time we're having. I'm like, how many people are buried in your basement? Like, I just don't inherently, I just can't trust it. It's the same kind of thing I'm getting with that. It's like, okay, go get Sissy. It's like, you are not trustworthy. You seem like too much of an act is going on, so I believe that you are trying to evade the police, sir. Where is your wife? Is she alive still? I don't believe it. Like, show me. Give me them fingerprints. Let's go.
Well, it's almost like, are you trying to impress me with the fact that you have more than one kid and you don't think it's obvious? Do you feel like the need to make it more obvious by naming them what they are to each other? Like, I don't know what's going on.
The funny thing is, it's kind of like it's the inverse of, or it feels like the inverse to me of when, like when you talk to your child, you don't call them daughter or son. I mean, like in times there's times where it's appropriate, but a lot of the time it's like, all right, how was your day, Isaac? How was your day, Raina?
Yeah.
But then when you talk to your parents, it's always, oh, dad, mom, right? So it's like in the inverse. It's like if they're like, oh, how's sister today? It's like, Frank, I'm doing great. It's just like, it's so weird. It's like, no, that's dad. You don't call him by his given name. That's weird. Yeah. It's like calling a teacher by like their given name, like, or their middle name or something like that. It's like, whoa, what you doing? You're breaking the framework of reality.
Yeah.
Like, knock it off. This is crazy.
Yeah, stop breaking the rules. We have rules for a reason. Quit breaking the rules.
Stop trying to be special and just use the mom and dad and stop calling them like, Stephanie. Like I saw somebody call their mom Stephanie at like age 10. I was like, this is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever encountered, and I've been in a car accident. Like, this is so strange and uncomfortable. I need to leave. And the mom had no problem with it, which made it weirder.
Oh, that's very strange. That's very weird. I cannot see that. Yeah, that's awkward. That's an awkward. Right. That's an awkward turtle moment. Well, what's your preposterous peeve? Do you have? I'm sure you have one. Everyone's got one.
I have droves.
That's funny.
Too many to get into. I think the one
I actually had more. I have to be honest with you. It was hard to pick one for me.
What was your runner-up?
Oh man, my runner-up was people who wear workout clothes who have not come from the gym and are not going to work out. That was my runner-up. That also drives me crazy. They wear workout clothes.
You would not like my regular attire then. I go to the gym so sparingly. Like, they look at me like I'm like a complete hobo, and yet I walk around constantly in tennis shorts and like running sneakers, and yet I like never do cardio.
Well, I mean, I guess I actually don't think of it, and I guess maybe this is sexist of me. I don't know. What I'm thinking of is the women who just want to look good in yoga pants all the time.
I mean, that one, they got tricked by every guy and every female magazine. It's just like, they get shown in them too frequently in like media, and every guy likes it. So like, and they're comfortable. Like, how can you not?
I suppose so, but it kind of bothers me. It's
annoying. It's weird,
right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm glad I'm not crazy.
It's like the guy who's not at the gym, but he's wearing like the cutoff, like he's wearing the hoodie with the cutoff sleeves, and it's like clearly meant for working out. It's like, yeah, but you're not though.
Yeah.
And that's not doing anything. Like, what is this weird attaché you've brought with you today? Like, what is going on? That one's so weird too.
Yes, definitely.
All right, with all this weird, we're going to head to our second ad break, but don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Raina is going to enter the lightning round.
Yeah.
Have you ran out of new stuff to do, rendering your life wholly unsatisfying? Do you have too much time on hand and have no idea what to do with it? Or are you just plain over this existence and wish for a plane with more intrigue? Might I introduce you to Addiction? Addiction deals with all these problems and more. Had to meet your significant other's parents and would rather not? Addiction. Had to go to work for the third day in a row? Addiction. Rent? Why not? Addiction. Addiction cannot be held responsible for your choice of choosing to imbibe in addiction. Any and all life-destroying fallout as a result of addiction cannot be legally pinned on addiction. But you're more than welcome to try. And we are back. Raina, are you ready to enter the lightning round?
Lightning round?
I was born ready. I'm Ron fucking Swanson.
All right. Put however much time it takes to bake this cookie on the clock. Raina, Shakira's voice in Danny DeVito's body, or Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body?
Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Another amazing thing. I get ice cream for dinner.
Are hot dogs sandwiches?
No.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Fist fight.
If you had the power to see the future but couldn't change it, would you use it?
No.
Kill the spider or get an adult?
Kill the spider.
Is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No.
Kanye, yay or nay?
Nay. But like on the indifferent side of nay.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
Yes.
Which do you max out first? Intelligence, charisma, or strength?
Intelligence.
Are we alone in the universe?
I don't think so.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Oh my God. Gilbert.
Are Cheez-Its addicting?
Yes.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Either one. I love to cook. Make the food.
Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
100 duck-sized horses.
Do you create your own thoughts or just listen to them?
Listen to them.
If you have to have only one for the rest of your life, which would you choose? Rice or pasta?
Pasta.
Would you put your brain in a robot body if you could?
No. Hell no.
If someone you cared about asked you to help them cover up a murder they had committed, would you help them?
Oh my God. No, because I never want to get researched after saying this.
For the rest of your life, would you rather be followed around by someone playing the tuba or someone freestyling jazz poetry?
Oh, give me the tuba.
Would you rather have flight or invisibility?
Invisibility.
Vests or opera gloves?
Oh God, this looks so bad on me. Opera gloves.
Your significant other is missing. Who do you reach out to for help? A cop you live next to for 10 years or a hippy-dippy detective an old friend recommended?
A cop.
Is there any hope?
Oh God, yeah.
Are you out of touch or is it the children who are wrong?
It's the children.
Have you ever buried anything in a time capsule?
No.
Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1-hour time limit?
Maybe. I can eat a lot of food.
Congratulations.
You've survived the lightning round.
Yes.
But before we move on to our prize, I, like many of the listeners at home, would like to know, what is your favorite food?
Oh, jeez. You know what? So my favorite food, if it's not a sweet treat food, if I could eat macaroni and cheese every single day and not gain weight, I would do it.
I think that last part is what keeps most people from doing it as well.
Yes.
Moving on to your prize, what lightning round question would you like to ask me and in turn be asked of future guests?
Oh, okay. I have one for you.
Hit me.
It's a would you rather.
Ooh.
Okay. Would you rather have a bird shit in your mouth every morning, but your breath is lovely? Or you have perfect dental hygiene, but your mouth always reeks?
Ooh, it's a pickle. I guess I'll take the bird shitting in my mouth every morning.
Yeah.
Because then my breath smelling lovely. Because theoretically, I can still have perfect dental hygiene. I just have to, probably brush an extra 3 times a day.
Yeah. Are you sure though? Because that perfect dental hygiene, you never have to go to the dentist for any cavities, any cleanings.
I'm so self-conscious though, because then
might.
I'd be like, I would just be like talking like this with my hand over my mouth.
Oh, forever. I know, right? I would be doing
It'd
that
be so
too.
bad.
Yeah, I would probably also choose the virgin.
All right, as we come to a close, anything you want to plug, recommend, places people can find you or your content, or shout-outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, so check out our Spotify. It's Steve and Raina. My name is spelled RAENA, to be specific. Also, our YouTube channel, if you're interested in watching us go places, act like goofballs, and play some songs, check out our YouTube channel. Same thing, Steve and Raina, until we change it to whatever song we're going to come up with, or whatever name for the channel we're going to come up with, excuse me. And then, yeah, shout out to you, dude. Thank you so much for having me on here. This is so dope.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, this is so much fun. And then, yeah, listen to Gangs of Youths, great band. Listen to more Queens of the Stone Age, and listen to more Radiohead, and do yourself a favor and listen to Jeff Buckley as well.
And listen to more Steve and Raina.
Yeah, if it's your jam, yeah. I can't put myself out there with those guys. Those guys are like amazing. But yeah.
Nah. Maybe you're amazing. Everything about that? I kind of think there's at least one person who thinks so on this conversation.
Aw, thanks, man.
Well, thank you, Raina, for being my guest today. And a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you. Yes, you listening at home or wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our first Patreon patron, Sibeliello. If you would like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And most importantly, remember, folks, burritos are neato, kleptors don't steal Pepto, so how about we stop messing with little piggies and just tickle my big toe?